All right, welcome everybody to the fuel tank section. This one's a long one because the fuel tanks are horrendous, as I think everybody knows. Um, yeah, it's, just essentially the leading edge is just 10 times harder. This will be section 18, and really, you start off cutting up fuel tank stiffeners, which I didn't show because everybody has seen numerous people do that all the time. And then you drill the fuel bung hole and whatnot. Um, it's not too particularly hard doing that. You can see both fuel tank ends there with the fuel bungs, all four of them sitting right there on the table. um, Here's my handy dandy Pro Seal. You get very, let's call it intimate with Pro Seal. I originally bought the PPG Pro Seal. Apparently they're very proud of their product because it was like 250 $300 on Aircraft Spruce. And I only bought a quart. And then when I ran out, which was right before putting on the rear baffle, I found that Vans was selling Pro Seal like product under the name of Flame Master. And I can tell you, since I used both on these fuel tanks, I can't tell a difference between the two, except for the price. Vans, I think, was $60, $70 for a quart. PPG, $300. So, if I were to do it again, just buy the Flame Master from Vans, save myself $250. So yeah, that kind of sucked. But anyways, we're now getting into kind of the meat of it here. So first thing you're really doing on the fuel tanks here is doing the, well, I don't know what I'm doing there, but putting on the gas cap flange and back riveting the stiffeners. There's the first stiffener that I back riveted, and I'm using my Simcoe sealant gun, just essentially loading the sealant into that, and hopefully right about now it should pop up. I'll put a link to a review that I did on the Simcoe sealant gun. I found that if you go to Toolyard or something along those lines, toolyard.com, anyways, they will sell you the sealant gun used, which was spectacular because it was 70% off what you would pay for a brand new Simcoe sealant gun. And then Brown Tool out of Oklahoma City sells the cartridges for a third of the price that the yard store wanted for their cartridges. So it's kind of fun to navigate the used tool market like that. Of course, the cartridges are going to be brand new. And anyways, I really and truly, the Simcoe gun is kind of like I have like a roller painter that is it's one of those pump roller painters, and it's absolutely the worst thing to clean, but it makes your life so much easier when you're painting a very large area. It's the same thing with the Simcoe sealant gun. Like there's no cleaning it, but it is a pain to load the sealant into there. But once the sealant is in the cartridge, man, it's super simple. So I highly recommend getting a Simcoe sealant gun. it was so much easier. You're still gonna, of course, load the sealant onto a structure, and then you'll probably use a popsicle stick to smooth it out in some locations. Still, though, seems way worth it to me. You will lose a little bit of sealant because you can't get it all out of the neck of the cartridge at the very end there. And then you'll just throw away the cartridges. Some people say that they can clean them in MEK. I for the life of me don't understand how people are cleaning their cartridges. I let one soak in a metal can and could not in MEK, and I could not get it to come out clean. I mean, they're what, $1 or $2 for the cartridge, and then another $1 or another 50 cents for the neck. So whatever. Another thing I highly recommend, MEK cleaning solvent. That stuff really will clean Pro-Seal, and nothing else will. It's nasty, nasty stuff, though. Make sure it's nice and well ventilated. There were many times in my garage where I just had to open up the garage door, even though it's 107 degrees outside. And my garage has air conditioning, but regardless, due to the vapors, I had to open it up. And I feel like I should also say that if you haven't already, you have to watch Scott's video from Rand's Aircraft on fuel tank construction. He'll do 10 times better job than I will on how to construct these things. I will try to put a link to that also. Hopefully it should be popping up right about now. But he does a great job of explaining everything. And if you look at those ribs, I did still have some of the paper tags on them. And yes, I did remove them before completely sealing. Right there, you could see it. Before completely sealing up the tank. Because, of course, the fuel is just going to degrade those, and then eventually it'll make its way to the fuel pump. Hopefully get caught up in the filters before, but you don't even want to clog up filters with that stuff. This is the... Well, shoot, I don't know. I guess this is the right tank? Anyways, first tank went great. Second tank, I made a few mistakes, and it's mostly because I got complacent, thinking, oh yeah, I've read these instructions, and then I should have just been following along in the instructions, but I wasn't thinking and made a real bonehead move. I'll point that out as we get up to it. Another thing to note, you'll see it. Oh, it's kind of in the bottom left corner, right by the stand. There's a red. It's an ice pick, and just like there it is again, right by the blue tool there. But that red ice pick was the best tool because the last 3 rivets on the nose ribs will always be a pain, and to get those to align right so that I could get a rivet through, that ice pick was really, really needed. I'm so glad that I had that. So if you're starting out the fuel tanks, find an ice pick. Luckily that one was just perfect for a number 40 hole. I don't know if ice picks come in different diameters or what, but that was right on the money for what I needed. And those last 3 rivets in the nose parts of the rib are just really, really tough to get oriented. Here you can see one of the that's the bearing for the aileron rod. And I did primer the end of that because I don't really know how much moisture gets between the fuselage and the wings, but I felt like that was a good since it was also kind of a structural type thing, it was good to have that primered. You just saw me load in the vent line. You will have to do a 30, I think it's 37-degree bend in that, or not bend, but flange, single flange, so that it mates up with the fitting. I did what other people on Vans Air Force and other like Facebook and whatnot suggested, and once I tightened that up to the fitting, I also got in there with some Pro Seal and Pro Sealed around that fitting. I still left it to where you could get a wrench onto it and break it loose if you needed to, but I figured just getting some Pro Seal around there was some added benefit to make sure that that's sealed up. And unfortunately, here comes my next mistake. You can see I'm putting on the fuel cap flange right now, and then the very next step is to rivet on the stiffeners. And if you watch, I don't do that at all. For whatever reason, I put it in its jig, and then I just started putting. For some reason, I felt like this end rib was the time to do that. And you can see the stiffeners are not in there. And boy, was I pissed at myself when I realized that I had done that. So I called Vans, spoke with a tech representative, told him about my bonehead move. He got a really good chuckle out of it. I asked him if there was some award for the dumbest move ever, and if I could be nominated for that award, and he got another good laugh out of that. He did say to me that essentially the stiffeners could be riveted in essentially either orientation, so I could flip them 180 to where I could see the shop head better. And here I am now riveting on the stiffeners the old school way instead of being able to do such an easy back rivet method. The technical support person also said that back riveting is relatively new, as in 15, 20 years ago, nobody really ever back riveted. So your RV6 tanks, I think he said maybe 7 or early 7s, they were always back riveting stiffeners. So you would have put in the ribs and then back riveted the stiffeners anyways. So that made me feel at least a little bit better. And yes, I am using Pro Seal while wearing pajamas. That's a long story for another time. But and I was pretty sure I was going to ruin that pair of pajamas because Pro Seal gets everywhere. Doesn't matter what you do. You can think, oh yeah, I'll change out gloves every 2 minutes. It does not matter. It's going to get everywhere. I usually found I could get 2 ribs done, and then I was getting to the point of the Pro Seal running out. I have the B2 Pro Seal, so that's a 2-hour cure. Excuse me, no, I think it's 4-hour cure, but 2-hour work time. Anyways, regardless, roughly right about 2 hours, it would start to get stringy and kind of, you could tell it was on the edge of hardening up, and it was time to be done. So 2 ribs, and then it was time to move on. And I know this because my stereo system has a 2-hour timer for the garage, and then it shuts off. So I'd start the stereo, mix up a batch. If that stereo shut off, it's time to start looking at the Pro Seal, and sure enough, it's starting to get stringy. And again, it's about 100, 107, sometimes 110. So I'm working in conditions that harden up Pro Seal as fast as pretty much possible. Here I'm doing the last. Oh no, I'm doing the J channel that runs through. And now it's time to clean, and you can see me using the Semco gun. This is in preparation for the back baffle. This part's just absolutely terrifying because you essentially have done everything you possibly could to make sure that the tank's good. And by the way, at this juncture, the tank has been water tested. Actually, and let me go back there. This is the second tank that I'm just essentially finishing up. I think that those videos may have been just ever so slightly out of order. Putting the vent line in the second tank there, making sure that the fuel sender fits in correctly. Finishing up some nut plates. And then I do have coming up a video of the tank getting water tested. I did water test both of them before putting in the rear baffle. Here it is. And the thing to note here is, first of all, I tried to put as much weight underneath, but then I couldn't figure out how to seal up the end here. So as you can see, I accidentally broke the board on one of my fuel senders. So I put this fuel sender in there, thinking, well, if it rusts, whatever, I don't care. And sure enough, it did. I don't know how anyone else would water test, but if you don't have a third sender that you don't care about to be able to seal it up, I would not put a sender in there. I'd find some other way to seal up the end of the tank. But I honestly don't know how you would do that. So my suggestion is don't use a fuel sender that you don't want to have damaged, but then also how else you seal that up, I have no idea. So I slowed this part down because here's the really just terrifying part. Getting this back seal on correctly in one shot. Oof. And making sure it's squeezing the sealant that you laid on both sides and along the aft end of the ribs. And it took a solid 2 hours to get this rear baffle on, including all the pop rivets for the attached Z brackets. After I was done, even though I was pretty much at that working window, or outside of that working window, and the sealant was kind of starting to harden up, once I was done, I flipped the tank over and I put it on my soft mat by my tool bench there and just kind of banged it against the ground a little bit, so that kind of helped the sealant set into the rear baffle. I've yet to test them because they're still within their 1 week drying window, so I still have 3 or 4 more days before I can do the air test for them. The water test, both of them passed. I didn't have any leakage, so hopefully these rear baffles are the same, and I just get a little bit of beginner's luck, and they're all completely sealed up. I really, really don't want to have to cut into these to fix something. And this is the second tank. Nothing really different about this than there was the first, other than my camera actually worked on this one. The other one was from a security camera. I will say I did the same thing that Scott suggested, which is turn the air pressure down to 40 on your pop riveter, just so it doesn't have that massive slamming clunk whenever you're pulling the pop rivets, just because those pop rivets have sealant and you don't really want to blow the sealant off of the pop rivets. Anyways, as much of a pain as these were, it was fun to see the process. The quick build is becoming more of a deal to me, in that the price may be worth it. But anyways, still enjoyable. See ya on the next video.